and I am pleased to welcome to the 2025 edition of Statehouse Conversations, Representative Victoria Garcia Wilburn of Fishers, a Democrat. That is District 32 for those keeping score at home with the scorecard. Not a rookie anymore. I know you know your way around now, which means that ambitious agenda of yours will no doubt be headed straight to the governor's office, right?
Well, we'll see, right?
Okay. I'm putting the optimistic look on it. Tell us about what you want to see accomplished this
Absolutely.
session.
I mean, I think what I've learned throughout the interim is that mental health is still on top of mind of many individuals, particularly in my district, right? So I served in the interim on the Behavioral Health Commission, and through that service, I've identified two key areas. Number one was my victory lap. So that freshman year, I passed groundbreaking legislation that has now national recognition in providing public safety with mental health and resiliency training. So that's an upfront investment on increasing the longevity of our public safety professionals, which we know is critical. So
and you told me something interesting.
Yeah.
That's also helped with retention of these very important individuals.
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yes, it helps with retention. I mean, when we know how to identify when we're feeling unwell, that allows us to ask for help much sooner. So we really want to see a decrease in the number of retirements due to psychological injury, which has been on the rise in recent years. And so that's certainly something I know very intimately, and I don't want any family to go through that. So we're hoping, and I've worked very closely with my colleagues across the aisle and the Committee of Ways and Means and the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that we're funding the Mental Health and Resiliency Training Program another session. So
it can continue to be a national model or international model potentially.
I mean, to be recognized by such groups as Police One, to be recognized alongside NAMI. I mean, those have been huge accomplishments for me that I was not expecting, but that just goes to show when you're committed to problem solving, the right things happen.
So clearly mental health and behavioral health, that's sort of top of the agenda for you, middle of the agenda for you, and maybe even the end of the agenda. That is clearly a focus for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I think our mental health is threaded throughout so many things that we do in life, including our workplace productivity. So if we want to continue to make sure that we're addressing our workforce shortage, we want to make sure we have a well society to contribute to a workforce.
And the General Assembly did make an investment in public health and in mental health, a fairly significant one.
Absolutely.
In terms of suicide intervention hotlines and the teams that are dispatched to deal with these critical situations. Do you sense that there's a recognition of a dollar well spent and a willingness to maintain, if not increase, those kinds of investments?
Absolutely. You know, that initial investment was casting a wide net to a variety of programs, right? And so what we've learned is that there are some things that are working really, really well, particularly the public health investment funding. We know that we are well above the national average for preventable hospital stays here in the Hoosier State, and that contributes to a whole host of problems. So in order to continue to kind of knock that down, making sure that we're falling in line with the rest of the country, making sure Hoosiers are healthy, we want to see that continued investment for at least another 5 to 10 years. We got to be on the starting line of things.
And one of the things, you know this better than I, but it seems to me in this institution or any governmental institution, especially elective office, people want results immediately. And sometimes these investments, whether it's in public health, either the physical side, the mental side, people want first quarter, second quarter return. How do you I guess you have data on your side, but how do you close that argument and say, you know, the investment we make now will pay dividends later?
Absolutely. And so I really think I learned some of those principles as a healthcare provider myself. So I spent about 15 years in direct clinical care. And we know that when we're dealing with chronic diseases, that takes a long time. Very methodical, intentional interventions to improve a person's daily life and increase their quality of life and expectancy. And then coming into healthcare research, you also know that when you're starting projects, it takes a long time to gather that data. So I would love to see us cast out a little bit further than we're doing now. Healthcare is complex. It's tricky. It's going to take sustainable investments. It's going to take thoughtful investments. And it's not something that's going to be solved overnight.
Well, one thing about mental health and behavioral health, it's not a partisan issue. I mean, if there's as I think about issues that sometimes there's an R attached to it or a D attached to it, that's one that sort of is an equal opportunity effect on Hoosiers generally.
Well, and quite honestly, when I come into this house, I take off my D hat and I see everybody here as a person to help solve a problem. And I really think that that's what my constituents expect from me, is to make sure that I'm working my hardest across the aisle to get things accomplished and done. So really all of our issues are Hoosier issues.
Well said. Well, I will look forward to monitoring your legislative efforts
you.
and those of your colleagues, Victoria, Garcia, Wilburn, Fishers, District 32. Democrat representative, thank you for taking time to talk about your views and hopes and goals for this session, and thank you for your commitment to the state of Indiana and to public service, importantly.
Thank you. Thank you as well.